welcome back to Grace Begins podcast with Kat and Kathy. We are very excited today to welcome I'm a huge fan of his work.
Big star.
Big star. You
Real
guys
celebrity in the house.
Yes. He has so many wonderful things to share, but let me just give you a little taste of some of the things that he's done. He has a podcast called Talking to Myself. He has about 500 different voices that he does.
They all sound the same, but yeah.
I can see why you call it talking to yourself. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
He also has a one-man show called Talking to Myself. He's an author of a devotional, a daily inspiration devotional. He's an amazing artist. He's a 30-year voice actor veteran. And he's the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is huge. And he also just recently produced, directed, starred in this beautiful film called Hidden Blessings, which is would you say a mockumentary?
It is classified as a mockumentary, but it's not a comedy. But it is. Right. It is a fake documentary.
In that style. And it's a beautiful film, a little redemption story. So we are so happy to welcome James Arnold Taylor to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Welcome. We're excited to hear all about you and your story and your journey.
I guess I should say, as Obi-Wan Kenobi would say, hello there. That's a very big Obi-Wan meme right now.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Hello there. Yes, and Fred Flintstone. I got to hear Fred.
Yeah, but dabba-doo, where my Bonnie?
Yeah. Nobody ever guesses 5'4", 120 pounds is Fred Flintstone.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of being a voice actor, is that you can be anything. And that was, I think, for me, especially as a little kid, being the shortest kid in my class every year, no matter what. Rather than get bullied, I tried to befriend everybody with my voices and my characters and recreate shows that we'd watch, or do Marty McFly. Whoa, wait a second, Doc. You mean to tell me you built a time machine out of a DeLorean? Well, I see it, Marty. If you're going to build a time machine into a car, why not do it some style? Whoa, Doc, this is heavy. Weight has nothing to do with it. So, I would do voices and entertain.
So awesome.
So did you know when you were young that's something you wanted to do? Or?
Since I was 4 years old, I wanted to be a voice actor. And I think, a lot of people want to be actors on camera and all those things. And I do some on camera, but I've always loved voice.
Yeah.
And I didn't know. There's a part, maybe you all don't know about my story. But so I don't know if I've shared with you that it was kind of in my DNA. And I found out when I was 42 years old. I didn't know because I didn't know the person I thought was my father my whole life was not my father. And my real father actually did what I do for a living.
Get out of here.
And I didn't know that.
Wow.
Until,
That's powerful.
That's a whole other. I know. I just opened a whole new thing and threw it there.
We're gonna go in that door.
Yeah.
So I had seen something somewhere where Mel Blanc, who was Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck and every Looney Tunes character.
Yes.
When I was very young, I saw something of him in a recording studio doing voices, and I went, that's what I want to do.
Wow.
And so I went after it and pursued it. And so I started as a stand-up comic at 16 and then went to the local radio station in my hometown of Santa Barbara and said, how do you get into radio? And I literally started sweeping up at nights, and I would sit in and watch the DJs do their shows. And it was like out of a movie. Once when I was still 17 years old, they called me up one night and they're like, you're on, kid. The overnight guy didn't show up, and I took over for him, and then kind of the rest is history.
Wow. So you started in radio first, and then how did the voiceover thing kind of come into your life?
I knew that radio was really going to be a great starting ground for me to learn the techniques of all the microphone technique, headphones, all the equipment. I'm a total nerd for all the technology. All the behind the scenes stuff here is what I'm like.
Yeah. We don't know what half of it does.
I love all of that. So I would lock myself in the production room and create fake shows and give them on cassette tapes. Cassette tapes are something that we used to have a long time ago.
Back in the dark ages.
And I would give them to the program director, and then he would listen to the shows and critique them and kind of teach me. And that's where then when they said, okay, we know this guy can do it, and they put me on the air. So I started in radio, and then I worked for a radio syndicator, and I was the production director too, so I would make all the commercials. And when you're, 18, 20 years old, and you're in a production room alone at midnight, and you've got to do commercials with all these voices, and nobody else is there to do the voices, you just start doing them. So I would have conversations with myself. I'd be talking to myself. So, hey, Bob, what's wrong? I got this headache. It just won't go away. Here, try that. So I would just have to do all the characters. And so kind of started from there.
Yeah, that's so amazing. I love hearing how people well, it's I say people, it's God who like directs your steps and like places you in just the right situations where he's like just steering your path.
Opens the door that opens the next door that leads to the next door, and then you just look back at all these doors that were open, closed, but that led you right on that path.
And it's that gratitude too, when you can unlock the gratitude and wake up every day and go, wow, he did exactly what you're both saying.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm just going to be thankful, and then try to just live with that gratitude. Then he just allows more to come in and just guide those paths.
Absolutely. We were just talking about that. I said that I'm really trying to put forth that, like, making gratitude my focus every morning. And I was like, man, my day just goes better. Like, it's really going better. So I love that you bring that up, because I think that that can be a complete game changer, day changer for somebody.
It really can. So back 19 years ago, actually, February 13th, 2005, was a kind of a red letter date for me. I woke up and I had no voice. I lost my voice completely. And we had bought a house because we were adopting our daughter from China. And we bought this new house. We thought this was going to be the house we, raise her in. It's going to be wonderful. And it was a money pit. Everything that could go wrong with this house went wrong. And we had black toxic mold growing in the walls.
Oh, no.
And I was the one that discovered it. And so I had run my hand down the wall because there was moisture, and I was feeling for moisture, and my hand actually fell in. It was so saturated.
Wow.
They had put nails in the pipes, the plumbing pipes, when they were building. They built this whole place so wrong. And so for the first year we were living there, water was dripping down into the walls and saturating everything. So of course I did what anybody else would do. I got a flashlight and I went and I looked in to see what was going on. And that's when I breathed in all the mold spores.
Gosh,
so they found 6 different types of mold in the wall, and they found all 6 in my blood.
Wow.
And one of them was black Stachybotrys, black toxic mold. And so I kept feeling like, am I getting sick? Do I have a cold? And then I woke up one day and I had no voice. I had chronic laryngitis.
Wow.
Went to the doctor and he said, you got to stop talking. And, I was at kind of at the height of my career. We were in the middle of—
You're like, this mouth is my moneymaker.
Like,
Be still and know that I
know that. So, and that was
Close
it.
those lips.
I'd been a believer for, almost 2 decades already. So it's like, okay, God's got this, but Lord, I was like, please don't let this be the worst day of my life.
Yeah.
Please help me to change this somehow. And 6 months later, we get our paperwork for my daughter. Because, when you adopt from another country, they just pick a child for you and then you get the paperwork. And so we were going through a company called America World, which is a Christian adoption agency. And they sent us our paperwork. They've placed you with a child. We get the little picture of my daughter with the little whale spout hair and little, she was like 6 months old in the picture. And I'm looking through her paperwork and I look at her birthday and it's February 13th, 2005. It was the same day I lost my voice and said that prayer. So God took that day and said, it's not the worst day, it's the best day of your life. And I'm changing everything for the better. Because over that course of 6 months, I discovered I needed to, because they wanted to put me on medications for the rest of my life and keep all this, at bay and stuff. And I went a holistic route instead. And so it took a couple of years to rebuild my health and my immune system. And I still actually deal with some immune issues from the mold. But he put us on such a different route. And, we changed our diet, we changed our lifestyle completely, how we eat. And my daughter grew up eating that way, and her favorite food is broccoli. So it's like, she's and she's an amazing, amazing young gal now, 19, and just got her first job working out here.
How old was she when you got her?
She was 8 months old when we got her. And that was a whole other experience.
Yeah.
But,
I have friends that have adopted. They adopted from China. And she's an amazing young lady. She's 16 now, but they got her, I believe, when she was 18 months old. But her head was just flat.
Yep.
Because no one picked her up. So, it was like really hard for her to be touched and, receive that. But just amazing to see
the grace that he gives us, and that, so I had this whole kind of story of, realizing who I was, and my wife is kind of a miracle baby because her parents were both married. They had daughters and then they got divorced and then they came together and they had her, but her mom had her on like one tube and ovary. It wasn't supposed to happen. It was a total miracle.
Wow.
So we're 3 misfits that all kind of came together, and God brought us all together from different places. And we just try to shine his light wherever we can. So.
Oh, that's beautiful. So you said you've been a believer for a long time. Were you raised in a Christian family?
Not at all.
No?
No, we had a pretty tumultuous childhood. Saw a lot of bad stuff. Single mom raising 3 kids. I have an older brother and sister. They're 5 and 6 years older than me. And a lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol, a lot of abuse. I watched my stepdad abuse my mom many times, and it was not idyllic in any way, shape, or form. You know, I'm from Santa Barbara, which is a very affluent place, but we were definitely in the slums of Santa Barbara. You know,
Santa Barbara had slums. There you go.
1-bedroom apartments. Grew up there, saw a lot of bad stuff, and so really, I was always. But somewhere along the line, around when I was 4 as well, the man I thought was my father. My parents were divorced when I was a month old. We'd see him every, Christmas or whatever. He and his wife did take us to church once. And I remember the Sunday school, they gave me a Bible and they taught me about Jesus. And I hung on to that. And so I always would pray. At the end, now I lay me down to sleep and I'd say my prayers and Jesus just bless everybody. And so throughout my whole teen years and stuff, and a lot of just, stuff going on there, I always felt like he was still kind of at his hand there. But I grew up with a lot of New Age religion, a lot of, things that I just would pull you down into another route.
Right.
And my wife, really, I give so much credit for, because we started dating when we were in high school. We met in high school. We were in the marching band. We were band geeks. And
which instruments?
I played the saxophone.
Oh, that's a sexy instrument.
Yeah. And my wife played the flute and the piccolo.
Oh, wow.
And so,
beautiful.
and I was in jazz band, and I was, I was cool dude.
Oh, you're the cool guy.
Oh, very
Sax.
cool.
Oh, yeah.
I was very cool. But so we met in high school, and she grew up in a very well, balanced, established home, a good Christian home. And I remember going to church with them and just feeling like, I think I feel Jesus here, Like I couldn't put my finger on it. But, and so then when we were married, was when I officially gave my life to the Lord, when I was 21.
Wow.
And so, said, okay, kind of finally got it.
Surrendered.
Had it all really explained to me the right way.
Yeah.
And then I started really just seeing how he had his hand on my life the whole time, and kept me alive through a lot of things too. So he's an amazing God.
Yes. Yeah, that's amazing to think that. I was just thinking as you're talking, like, we go through all these trials and everybody has different versions of that.
Yeah.
But when you can have gratitude and look back and go, well, I needed to go through that to get to here.
Yeah.
Maybe you wouldn't have needed Allison if you had have been in a different family situation.
Right.
And how he used her to bring you closer to him. And he's just like coming around you like this, just like bringing you in, just steering. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, he, it's Allison. So I'm very extroverted, obviously, entertainer, voices, all that. And my daughter is like times 10 me. She's very extroverted. And she's just so much light. Everywhere we've gone, ever since she was little, we'd be pushing her in the shopping cart at a Whole Foods in LA, and she'd go, "Hi, do you know Jesus?" to people, and they'd be like, "That's not
so sweet.
LA. That doesn't float." And Allison is just very introverted and but solid, and she's just always had such a solid faith. So it's really great. She's our anchor, and sometimes she'll just raise her hand and go, "Can I speak?" Because she'll go, da, 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 da. So,
it's the balance.
It is a great balance.
Yeah.
No, I think it's beautiful to see that in kids nowadays, to see that testimony, because it's lacking in our society today. And I remember my daughter one time, she asked me just out of the blue when she was young, she was like, "What's Jesus's last name?" And I'm like,
I love
a really good question.
Christ.
Like,
Yes,
I was like,
that's right.
but I'm just glad you're, raising him in a place where they're at least asking the questions and thinking about it, and he's on their mind. And so I love that. I love that. She's got that light.
So she had opportunities to be in acting. We actually did a movie together. There's a movie on Netflix called Animal Crackers, and it's an animated film. And Ian McKellen plays my brother, and the two of us own a circus. And Lydia, my daughter, my real life daughter, plays my great niece in it, and John Krasinski and Emily Blunt play her parents in it, and they own this circus, and she did all that, and she did a couple of TV shows, and she's just not interested in voiceover. She's like, "No, Dad, it's not my thing." But so because of that, she's just still learned all of it and she appreciates it. So she would go with us to the Comic-Cons and stuff. And this last Comic-Con we just did was her last show with us. And now we've let her go out into the world. She's got her own job and she's doing that, but she's being a light to so many people. And she started her own Bible study with a bunch of friends. And
Does she live here in Nashville?
She does, yeah.
Okay.
And,
she came here too?
She does, yeah. And she works at a very nice resort here and
Oh, wow.
working in hospitality.
Yeah.
Wow.
Greeting people.
Well, it sounds like she was that from the beginning. She's a little hostess.
Yeah.
She is.
Yeah.
She is. So, yeah.
That's amazing. So, is there a point in your life like that where you could say, like, I know we have sometimes some of us have many of those points,
Yeah.
but was there a pivotal moment in your life where you can say, God just really extended His grace to you, and you really could like harness that?
I think certainly with when I lost my voice, because throughout all of that, you can't like call up your agent and go, "Oh, I've lost my voice." I know I've got a couple movies going right now, and several TV shows, and a promo gig, and all that. I'm not going to be able to talk for a few months. Somehow, through all of that and having chronic laryngitis, I could get a couple of different voices out.
Wow.
And at the time I still do these promo voices for Fox for their animated shows. And at the time, they wanted me to do this, what they called Vegas guy. So is this voice, it was kind of like this, coming up, an all new Simpsons and Family Guy, followed by,
I've
American
heard him.
Dad. Yeah, so that guy. And that was about one of the only voices I could do without, because my voice kind of just sounded like this if I was talking. And so then we did the Ninja Turtles movie and stuff. We were shooting it and they're like, well, we'll just pick it up. And they would take time for me. And there'd be days where I would have my voice for like an hour. Mm-hmm. And it really was, we would just pray and just go, and you just feel the Holy Spirit just kind of come in and just kind of take over. So those I'm just so eternally grateful that he got me through that. And then about 3 years ago, just before we moved, I had started experiencing some vertigo, and we don't know exactly why. And it was, again, one of those things where when we moved, I was really just, because for 2 months I was experiencing, everything was spinning.
Oh, it's terrible.
Constantly. It was very scary. And I thought, is this my life now? And came here to Nashville, got some tests done, and the doctor said, I think they misdiagnosed you. And we did these tests where they induced the vertigo, and it was really heavy. And during those, I felt this peace. And I'm not one of those people that gets God talking to him.
No.
I have so many friends who are like, oh, God told me this. And I'm like, oh, what's that like? I just don't get that. I get feelings, and I feel like, okay, the Spirit is leading me or guiding me, but I never hear it. And I felt very specifically like He said, you're going to be okay, and you're done. I've got this. And after those tests, and ever since, I've been okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'll take it as a miracle.
Absolutely.
Maybe it was the test that dislodged, because so when you get vertigo, sometimes it's because a crystal gets dislodged in your inner ear, and they think that they had misdiagnosed the canal that it was. So they did some things, and maybe they just popped it back in, but maybe it was God. I don't know, but it was all the Lord, and I'll take it. So those moments in my life where my health has been, I think all of us can relate to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But also just when I think about where my life could have been, I'm a high school dropout. I was raised, very much in a low income, small kind of bad, a lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol, a lot of abuse, a lot of violence, a lot of that stuff around. There's no reason why I should be a successful voice actor and have a normal life. And it is all completely because of His grace.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I love that. And we get to talk about that on so many of these stories is that, and we talked to someone earlier and I said the same thing. And when we did our first episode, and it was like, I shouldn't be where I'm at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just shouldn't be. And even moments for you. I mean, being on a TV show, you know what I mean? It's not, you didn't really grow up in that. You know what I mean? Just these moments where He's just like, no, I'm going to have grace on you. I'm going to give you this. And I keep thinking of Zacharias, of your story.
Yeah.
You had a Zacharias moment. You know what I mean? Where,
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't strike you
thank
dumb,
you.
but you really literally had that. I keep thinking, oh, you're Zacharias. Yeah. Like you had that. And then have the child at the same time. It was like,
look at that. Wow,
I
I've
mean,
never
think
thought of
about that.
It's
You're
so funny.
very
Yeah,
much.
that's great. I love that. Okay.
So yeah, he had that moment, but he has to get your attention sometimes, and sometimes that's in silence. And I had a thing recently, and it was like my phone wasn't working, and it was like, but I was really in a stressful situation where I think God was like, I got to pull her out of here right now, and the only way to do it is take her phone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's so much of my business and work. But so he'll find a way to shut us down, so we can hear and breathe, and it ended up just freaking out for a couple hours, and it was fine, but I think he had to just take me away for a minute and just make me breathe. And so that was like kind of your moment to get your attention and strengthen you, because now that was a moment where you saw his grace, right?
Yeah.
And at the time it probably seems like, and we've all had that moment where we feel like our life's falling apart. How am I going to do? How am I going to pay my bills? This is all, exactly. And he has to like stop us for a minute, and it's
trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding.
Yeah.
In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord. Shun evil. It will be health to your body and strength to your bones.
Yeah.
It's like the more you go with that, it's such a beautiful in Proverbs there. 3, 5, 6 into 7. It just keeps going to remind you again, because that's what we do.
Yeah.
Trust in the Lord with all. Okay. But lean not on your own. Okay. And you just have to keep reminding yourself.
Reminded.
Yeah, because you can forget day to day. We talked about
second
that.
By second sometimes.
You're like, I'm all in. 5 minutes later, no.
And that's the other thing with what we have. As we sit here in this beautiful studio with all these cameras and all this gear and all this stuff, we forget that all this is at our disposal, yet the world is really basic when we think about it's just we're being held in his hands.
Yeah.
And so this can catch us up into this world, and are we doing enough? Are we, because we want to be light, and we have all this, so we want to be light to everybody.
Yeah.
But it's like you got to let him be light to you too.
Yeah.
And you got to take it in and realize and breathe. It's okay. No matter what, he's here.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Taking care of it step by step, moment by moment.
Yep.
He's got it. And we talked about that earlier. It's like looking back at all the doors that, he's open. It's like I always compare it to like a chess game. You know what I mean? Where he's just moving the pieces to me, but he's there. But his hands are on us the whole time. And you've talked about that. Like he's just constantly picking us back up and like coddling us, like, the toddler, and just like, because he loves us so much and he wants us to succeed, it's just like, in Jeremiah, my plans for you are good, not bad. I only want good for you. So I'm not gonna ruin you. I want it to be good. And I feel like you've seen that so much in your life. With that.
I think that also when I think about my daughter, and I think when she messes up, and she's an awesome young lady, but she messes up. We all do. And I think, what is my response to her? And it's just like when he says, you don't offer a scorpion, right? To your own child. And I always just want to hug her and say, I'm here. And that's what I do. And I try to, even if I'm mad, we try to then come together. We talk it out. We'll talk till 2 a.m. if we have to. We communicate, over communicate. But then I think the end result is that hug, that embrace, and that I love you no matter what. And we forget that God's doing that to us.
Yeah, we do. We get stuck on the disappointing him piece. I know I do. Like oh gosh, I messed up again. He's probably upset with me. He's not. He's already forgiven
it's not
me.
In his nature.
Even before I've done it. He's like, she's going to do it again, so let me just forgive her.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where you have to remember that and I watched that movie, The Shift, the other night. I was telling you I watched that, and it was that moment because he's there. It's his Job moment with the devil. And it's like, he's putting that in your head. You're not good enough. God thinks you're dirty, you're terrible, you're awful, you're a horrible person. You'll never be good enough for, and it's like, no, that's not God. That's the devil
enemy
saying that to you. Yeah. And it's like, we forget that when it's in our head. You know what I mean? Is it our voice? Is it, you know what I mean? But God will never speak to us like that.
Or we think we're the worst.
Yeah.
And then I was just reading yesterday, Paul says, I was the worst.
Yeah.
And then God brought me out. He was writing to Timothy. And you think, if you stop and think about it, you go, yeah, Paul actually was
terrible. He was killing people.
Persecuting Christians, allowing the death of Christians, all that stuff. And then he has that moment, knocked off the horse and comes, which is so much proof. Whenever when I want to talk to friends that are on the fence or don't believe at all or whatever, I want to go, this guy was not a Christian in any way, shape, or form. He hated them. And God took the worst and turned him into the best. But we kind of take it for granted, right? Because we have all this wonderful, as my friend Tom Wilson, who would be a great guest for y'all too. Tom was Biff in Back to the Future.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I know Tom.
Tom.
Yes.
He says the Bible is a library of 66 amazing books. And I think I love that thought that it's not just it's a library of all these stories and books. And you look at that and you look through Paul's stories, which we take for granted as he was this great guy. He wasn't. So when we get down on ourselves, we have to remember, no, you're not the worst. And he took the worst and made him the best. And just feel his embrace.
I just, for the first time in my life, read the Bible cover to cover.
Right.
And I'm just so in awe of how it all, you just see God's providence through the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't force faith. You either choose to believe it or you don't. And God gives us that choice. That's his grace. Yeah. He's like, I'm not going to force you. I'm not going to tell you to be anything. It's you come to me. I'm here. My door's open. You come to me.
But I think that's where he brings you those powerful moments of conviction, right? Because, and that's what we talked about before. It's like that powerful moment of conviction where it's like you can't deny him. I mean, we've all been in that place where we've seen him. I mean, you can tell me all day and show me whatever whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Like I've seen it. I've felt it. I've seen his hand. Like I know. So it makes it. I felt it too strongly to ever deny it. And it's that's where people don't always understand that.
Yeah. On my podcast is like the one place where I've really talked a lot about my faith. As as an entertainer, we're entertainers. We go, okay, we're here to entertain.
Yes.
I don't want to be political. I don't want to be over spiritual in some ways, but I'm not going to deny my spirituality. So I just want to be honest. So I thought my podcast was a way of doing that. This podcast is a great way of doing that, of being able to just talk about it. But I always just say to people, you just have to know that I have experiences in my life that show me without a doubt he's real.
Yeah.
And the fact that I'm alive is that too. But so I say on the podcast a lot, I say, know what you believe and why you believe it. Because I think a lot of young people believe a lot of things, but they don't know why. Because because those are devices, right?
Yes.
Because Google told me, or because, whatever. We have to know why we believe something and then know more than we want to know.
Yeah.
Right? Because we get in our comfort zones. This feels good. But it's like, but if you know more, then you can understand. So I try to always go, this is me. This is who I am. This is my faith. And if you can just maybe get it, kind of understand why I am the way I am. You don't have to be like me.
Yeah.
But if you get it, then maybe that helps you. And maybe it helps you find your own journey too.
Yes, inspire you somehow.
I hope.
Yes. So speaking of inspired, tell us a little bit about your movie, Hidden Blessings.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you letting me talk about it.
Yes.
This movie has been, as I was telling you all about this before, it's kind of in my head for 30 years. I've always loved the story of the prodigal son because I think all of us feel like, as we've been talking about here, we're kind of all the prodigal in some ways, right? We feel like, we've disappointed and we've left. We went and did our own thing. Everybody has those moments. But we also, as I get older and as I read more, and so many books I've read on the prodigal son too, we're also the older son sometimes. The one that says, God, I'm doing everything right. Come on, I didn't leave. I'm doing this. And he's like, you don't get it, honey. Come on, come here, sit up here. It's all right, And so I love the story of redemption in that, but I also love just how the father is consistent and loves. And I wanted to be able to kind of tell a story of a father and his sons. And the prodigal son story, there's never really a mention of the mother because it's about God, it's God's love for humanity and stuff. And so, but it's really a perfect parable, the parable that Jesus tells in Luke, 15 or 16. And I just thought, how do I tell that in a modern day way? And then we decided to tell it as a documentary. So the movie it never breaks the fourth wall of the documentary. So we never pull outside of the documentary. So if you watch this, and a lot of people watch it and they go, is this real?
That's what I did. I was like, wait, that's James. But hold on a second.
So in the movie, I play a painter by the name of Gregory Davidson, who is this very famous, he had a bunch of paintings that he did in the early 90s or late 90s, early 2000s called Hidden Blessings. And they were a painting of a painting you can't see. Everybody's always blocking the painting. And so you wonder and so it became this big thing of who is this? What is the painting and stuff? So, which I needed to come up with something there.
Yes.
I was like, I needed a device. And so I am an artist. So I came up with I had to paint a bunch of things for this movie, which was a lot of work too. But, so he's this reclusive artist that's never been interviewed. And this young girl who's a young filmmaker, a documentary filmmaker, inherits a painting of his that she believes is his. So she writes him a letter, is this yours? And he responds, which is unheard of, and responds and says, why don't you come interview me? which is like, what, are you kidding me? So there's this question throughout the movie too. Is Gregory Davidson, this girl, Lydia Drake's father? Because she never knew her father because her mother got pregnant in college and her parents pulled her out and all of that. So she doesn't know, does this painting have a connection to my real father? And will I find him? And then while she's there documenting his life with his family, she her cameras accidentally capture things like the prodigal son asking for his inheritance and leaving and all of that. So it kind of twofold. I always say it's the prodigal son with a twist. So we have a lot of twists in there, a lot of surprises in it, which of course I don't want to give away, but.
Well, and the part that I really loved was you see her grow as she's watching him live his life, and she's very like kind of a bit turned off by his faith, and he's always so joyful, and she's always a little bit like sarcastic about it. And then as you see through the movie, she starts to really unravel.
And we tried to make that. We tried to make it so the movie is supposed to take place over like 2 years of her documenting his life, and so she starts as somebody that kind of is like she was grown up in a house with faith and she pushed it aside.
Yes.
Like many of us do. And so she just kind of, okay. But I wanted it to be a soft role. And there are things that hit in her life that make her then during this kind of start to go, well, maybe there's something to it. Because I think all of us have those times and those moments where we can choose to turn to God. And, whether she does or not is
you have to watch
the question.
The
movie. But yeah, we really had a great time doing it. And we did it on no budget.
Yeah.
And we did it with basically 3 cameras, a lighting kit, and a couple of microphones.
Did you film here?
We shot it. Most, I would say 95% of that is shot in my house.
Oh, wow.
We used every wall, angle, room, corner of the house to be different places and all of that. And it was myself and my producing partner, Matthew Buds. And Matt has an amazing story himself. He was a police officer, and he was hit by a drunk driver on the way to a call, broke his neck. Worked for an additional 14 months with a broken neck, not knowing.
Oh, gosh.
And then it snapped, and by the grace of God, he is still walking and all of that. And so he has his own kind of miraculous stories. His stories are amazing. But so he and I met in a Bible study on Zoom during COVID and realized we were kindred spirits. And I said, guys, I'm about to move. I'm going to Tennessee. He goes, I'm moving to Tennessee. Turns out we live 20 minutes from each other.
Oh my gosh.
And so we had never met until we moved here. We both lived in California.
That's like our story. Our story.
Right?
Yeah, she's been circle of my life. Yeah.
Her brother is Steve Cardenas. He was on the show with me.
The Red Ranger.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
So
I should have put it together with the last name.
I know, but we've been in each other's circle for years. And then one day Steve told me that she was moving to Franklin, and would I meet with her? Because she didn't know she knew like a couple of people, but not a lot. And I was like, of course. And so we met and just immediately connected. And it's just fun. God's got a sense of humor.
He does have a great sense of humor. And it's so funny. So Matt and I started writing. We wrote a movie called The Comic Shop, which we're really hoping to get made. But it's a little bigger than this one.
Yes.
And everywhere we went to pitch it, they said, do you have anything finished? Well, I had been sitting on like 9 scenes of this that I tried shooting when I was in LA. And I said, well, I've got this other movie I never finished, but could we do it? So the two of us just shot it in our free time, hired a couple very talented young actors is what I wanted to say, to play my sons. And,
they
and
were
stuff.
wonderful. Yeah.
Really great young talents here in Franklin. And we've just been, so we did it on no budget, and we're trying to get distribution for it and get it seen. But we're starting a grassroots campaign right now too, where we're going to start taking it to some churches. And then there is actually the Free Will Baptist Church is interested in possibly showing it to all of their churches as well.
Wow.
So we did a screening at one of their churches, and a friend of mine is one of the pastors. And so we're working on that and maybe getting it into other churches. And just, I just want it as kind of a way to kind of show people, here's the prodigal son story in a new light.
In a new light, yeah.
And and you can bring some
Resonate with
people that maybe aren't believers too, and see if it resonates.
Well, that's what I liked about it. Is it's not a lot of people turn away from faith-based films, and that's what I liked about it. It was appealing for all, I think.
Yeah, I think it's not the typical. It's certainly not the typical because it's a documentary, but it's not. It's just not written in the sense that is that kind of more like beginning, middle, and end of, oh, this person has this, and then they find this, and then they go there, and then it ends up. It still has all the happy endings, all the beats, but it's different because of the format of it.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely. It's very unique. So is there anywhere they can watch it? Or
We're working on that.
Okay.
We've been, turned down by everybody. We've been turned down by the best. Netflix just passed on us, we found out last week.
Yes, but what God says yes to, it doesn't matter
Yes.
if anybody says no.
Exactly.
So what I may just end up doing is, as if we do start showing it in churches, I have a website for it, and I may just put it on there behind a small paywall. And if people really want to see it, they can just,
like $5 or something.
yeah, and then they can watch it.
Yeah.
And then hopefully just start requesting it in their churches and then doing like screenings.
Yes.
I'm writing a study guide for it too, so you can kind of have
wow.
that to go along
Oh,
with
I
it.
love that. That's amazing.
No, I think when people are doing good, I feel like even with this podcast coming together, I feel like when people are trying to listen to what God's saying and trying to put his word out there, that he's going to help that along. He's going to help that when you're really trying to put that out there. So we'll be praying that it gets some big pickup and sharing it with others. And it's a great place to share it. And it's amazing. I just love it. I love that there's more Christian films out there. And I just, it's something I look forward to watching. I love it when I see a new Christian film come out. I'm like, God, something I can watch that I enjoy. Because so much of this stuff, I don't really want to watch it. You know what I mean? It's like, so I'd rather watch the old stuff or just something like, it's just some of this new stuff. I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah, I know. So that's kind of my plan is I hope, as many people that have moved out here, to start just producing things that people want to see, like this one that we did, the comic shop. It's essentially kind of like Cheers in a comic book shop.
Oh, that's
It's a group of people, and there's kind of little misadventures, but it's very family friendly. And it relates to the world that we've been in this Comic-Con culture, So I go to Comic-Cons every couple of weeks now. And they're not being fed anything really that is, a good. I mean, there's plenty of superhero movies right now, but what about ones that are just, a little more lighthearted, but also
that they can relate to. Relatable, especially for people that go to Comic-Cons.
So that's what we're hoping with the comic shop, and we hope to get that made in this next year. But this other one is a precursor to that, and hopefully get people to start watching that. So.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing.
Absolutely.
I love every time we have someone on, we learn so much more than we expect about their journey. It just makes you realize everybody has a story, and not to judge people by how they look. Like, you're a successful voiceover actor with a story, It's amazing. I love hearing that.
I so appreciate it. Yeah,
and seeing you give, I just love when people give credit to God, and we've talked about that a lot. I think it does. I think it triples the blessings.
Absolutely.
I think it absolutely. He hears it, and you thanked me. I'm going to give you more. You know what I mean? And he doesn't need that from us, but it's just that acknowledgement. I just feel like for me, just giving it where it's due, because I know where it comes from. And so I love that you're out there sharing that too, and that message.
Yeah, I guess I feel like, look, I was somebody that did not know him. I felt he was there, but it's that whole, I know people say it's cheesy or it's cliche, but it's like if you just go and take a minute and go, okay, God, if you're really there, can you just show yourself? Just let me know. Doesn't hurt. Doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah.
So I try to just go, my life is the way it is, I know without a doubt because of him.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm giving you as my testimony.
Yes.
If you're interested in me, or you think I'm normal, or you think I'm a good guy, or you like what I do, it's because of him. So give him a shot.
Yeah.
That's kind of,
and I love it. And I think
shot.
just hearing this, people that tune in and listen to this, I feel like they're going to be inspired. The ones who are like, maybe, we talked about sometimes people just find things randomly on YouTube. And I feel like this is what this will be too. People
I could use a Jedi mind trick on them.
Yeah, exactly, right?
This is exactly what you're looking for.
What does he say? What's the meme?
It's hello there.
Hello there.
Hello there. This is the podcast you're looking for.
Yeah, exactly.
When you're doing that voice, do you have to do
I have to use the force. No.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, many different accents. I know I hear, that's the funny thing is I really hadn't done a lot of voices for you all here. So I did the
Yes.
Doc and Marty, but,
Fred Flintstone, yabba-dabba-doo.
Oh, yeah.
I could do Christopher Walken. It's crazy, but if Chris isn't able to do his voice,
So good.
I come in, I do it. It's,
I feel like
David
it's him.
Spade,
Yeah.
like David Spade as Emperor's New Groove. No touchy, no touchy.
Oh, wow.
Or Hiccup from How to Train Your Dragon. So my dragon
Yes.
toothless, and so I do that for Jay Baruchel.
Wow.
and Captain Jack Sparrow, Johnny Depp. I've been Johnny Depp's voice double for many years.
Oh, wow.
Even Andre the Giant. Anybody want a peanut?
Oh, wow.
And many other
That's
voices.
amazing. Were you a musician? I know you were a musician, but were you a singer as well?
I always say I sing if the check clears, but I got to sing God Bless America and National Anthem at a Dodger game for Star Wars night years ago.
Really?
Oh.
And that was like, I'm not a singer, but you do it and you just go out there. But yeah, I've sung a lot I used to sing in bar bands and things when I was
yeah.
younger. I played
Well, I
sax
can imagine
and
it
stuff,
helps with your breathing and your
Yes.
the tone and all of those
breathing
things.
is a huge thing, and it's a huge thing to all of us. So many people, whether you're a performer or not, take some time to breathe every day and learn diaphragmatic breathing. I use this little thing called a breather fit. It's a little device, and it helps train you to breathe through your diaphragm. But it's like voice actors and performers. People always say, "What's the key to voice acting?" I go, "Well, first off, you got to like your own voice, because most people don't. When they hear it, they go, "Oh, I sound so weird. I'm all up high." But and learn to breathe, because as performers, I'll watch somebody on a microphone in a voiceover session, and the whole time they start creeping up and getting closer and closer, because we're people pleasers as actors, performers, and we want to please everybody. So I always say, relax. Breathe. You got to remember to do that. And then all the blood starts rushing here and you go, oh, okay, it's all good again. So breathe. And then when you breathe in Jesus and you breathe out the world, and you apply that if you're a believer, and you can apply that and you're in a session and you're around people that aren't, and you just breathe them in and then breathe out everything else.
You're the second person that said that. I think he's trying to tell me something.
Yeah.
Because that's the second person that said that today. Because my friend was saying she just heard, they were studying James in her Bible study, and they were talking about be slow to speak, that whole verse. And I was like, she was saying, like, before you open your lips and say something that you wish you hadn't said, you need to take a breath and then allow God to come out through your voice. And I was like, oh gosh, I really need to work on that.
Well, it's hard, especially you're doing a podcast.
I just need to take a deep breath. I don't think I've taken a deep breath in 30 years. I think that's my problem. People always say that to me all the time. Breathe. I'm like, I am. They're like, no, you're not.
So think of it this way. So tongue on the roof of your mouth. You breathe in through your nose for 7 seconds. Hold it for even 4 seconds, and breathe out for 8 seconds. So
I do that to relax at night. To help me sleep, I do that same breathing. Yeah.
So do it when you wake up. Do it before you start an episode.
Yeah.
And do it. Yeah. You can even do it when the guest is like me and they go on and on and on.
Yeah.
You can, throughout the time, just take a couple of those breaths.
Yeah.
It just helps refocus us.
It does.
Okay.
It
gives that moment to say, I'm giving it to you, because you're actually you're letting go and you're giving it to Jesus.
It's a reminder just for you and him to have that moment, even in the middle of the day. It's that little reminder. So that's really good advice. Well, where's your Instagram? Tell us where people can follow you or keep up with your upcoming projects.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's Jat Actor, J-A-T. So my fans call me Jat. J-A-T, because I have the longest name in showbiz. James Arnold Taylor. 3 first names. So J-A-T. So it's Jat Actor on Instagram.
Okay.
And on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. I'm this close to 100,000 subscribers on there.
Wow.
amazing.
All right, we'll go subscribe. We'll help you. We'll help you get up there. Yes.
And so, and then my Instagram is there, and Twitter or X, whatever it's called now. I'm on there as well. It's all the same. But then my website is jamesarnoldtaylor.com, and it has links to everything, and you can see my art there. You can see my book, my podcast, all of that.
And he's a host as well. He hosts Star Wars conventions.
Yeah.
Like the busiest man in showbiz.
I try.
Yes, you are busy.
It's amazing.
So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming and
much.
sharing your
Bless
story
this
and inspiring us. So
I appreciate you. Thank you.
It means a lot. Thanks for taking the time.